Hello, all you lovely simmers out there. Seaweed from Tribal Soup Project here. Welcome to another episode of SIMsational. Today we've got the second edition of the Ultimate Building Guide, and today is going to be geared to the very newest of new beginner. I'm going to be going over the bare basics of building, going over everything from how to get into build mode, because there's more than one way, to just a very short basic usage of all the tools and buttons that you may be seeing and might be overwhelmed with. So if you have built before and you know how to get into build mode and you know what the tools are, then this is probably not for you. I will be going over in future episodes of this series a more in-depth look of how to use the tools and how to do things and create three-dimensional effects and things like that, which may not be totally obvious to somebody who's kind of new at building. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started with how to get into build mode. All right, so it is rather simple to get into build mode. I have my sim selected and she is at home right now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to this hammer and wrench to get into build mode. And then as you can see, when you mouse over these buttons, they'll almost always tell you what the hotkey is. So I can either click this button or I could press F2 on my keyboard. And boom, right into build mode we are. Now you should know that anything you do when you have your sim at their residence and you're going to build on the residence or purchase new items, it is going to cost your sim. It's going to come out of the bank, your sim's bank account or whatever you want to call that. And you can see down here the amount of the household funds. So anything I do while I'm here, it is going to come out of the household funds. Now your sim can go into build mode, not just in their residence. Your sim can go into build mode anywhere else they are. So we're going to go ahead real quick and we're going to travel to a new lot. And now that we're here at the museum, we can go into build mode simply by the same way that we did at the residence. And that's by clicking the build mode tool right up here in the top right hand corner. And boom, here we go into build mode. Now, when you take your sim, when you travel to any public lot, you will be able to edit anything on the lot. You can change the trees, the furnishings. You can completely demolish the structure and put up a new one. And anything you do at these public lots when your sim has traveled there, it is not going to cost your sim any simoleons at all. It's totally free to build on any of the public lots. Now, let's say your sim wanted to go over to one of the residents of another sim that they're friends with. You are not going to be able to edit those residencies from this mode. When you travel to the house of another sim that your sim is friends with, you're not going to be able to edit that sim's house. But there is a way to do that. And I am going to show you that with this last way to get into build mode. So the last way I'm going to show you how to go into build mode is from this world selection area. Now, I don't currently have a sim selected. I'm not in travel mode. You don't see a picture of the sim here, and I actually have the option to create a new household, but you can still go into build mode from this area. Any of the different public lots, as well as any of the residential lots, even one of the residential lots that another sim is living at, you can go into build mode from this area. So all you have to do is to select the lot you want to go into and then click down here on the bottom right, the building tool. So let's say I wanted to edit the goth house. I want to add a bunch of new stuff and it's going to be costly. When you go into build mode from this area of a residence of a sim that you have never played before, it's not going to, anything that you do is not going to come out of the household funds of that family. So real quick, let's go ahead and go into build mode at the Goths. And because I have never actually played with the goths in this game, down here where the household funds are, you can see anything that I do currently is going to be free. And the goths aren't going to get kicked out of their house either. They won't be evicted. It's just going to let you do whatever you want to the residents of that sim because you've never played with them before. But if you go into build mode at the residence of one of your sims that you have played with before, then you are going to see the current funds available to you down here as usual. And now that we are back here at my Sim's current residence, as you can see, we do have the amount of household funds available to my Sim visible. So anything I do in this mode from here on out is going to come out of those household funds. So jumping right in, we're going to go ahead and go over the bare basics of how to build and the building tools. I'm simply going to go over what each of these tools do and give a very brief overview of how they work. Look for future episodes if you want more of an in-depth look. I'm going to show you how to do lots of cool things, from creating three-dimensional effects and so on and so forth. So yeah, getting started. One of the things that makes a little bit easier learning to build are all the different mouse overs, and that goes for even when you're in gameplay mode. You'll have your sim down here and all the different panels that you could choose. If you mouse over the things, it'll tell you what they are. So jumping in, we're going to of course start with the lot information panel, where you can change the different information about the lot, or you can find out different information about the lot that you can't change. You could change the name. You could put in the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms that you have. It'll tell you the lot's dimension, and what this refers to is the size of the lot, and that is determined by this grid here. So this lot is 64 by 64. That means that there are 64 squares, little squares going this way, and 64 squares going that way. It'll also tell you the lot types. Now, because I currently have a sim who's living here, I cannot change it from the residential lot. But if I was, say, at the museum and I want to change the museum to a park, then I would be able to do that here. Now, the requirements, there's no requirements for a residential lot, and there's no requirements for a generic lot as well. But if, let's say, we were building a park, I would be required to have a certain amount of playground equipment, because, you know, that's what parks are. They're a place for kids to play. So that'll tell you the requirements, and it'll have a whole list of them. And as you gain these requirements, it'll check them off, or if you've not met them, it'll have a red X. So this here, the traits of the lot, are actually a really cool thing. You're able to pick 3 different lot traits. And what these traits do is they enhance your game in some way. So let's say I wanted to select Chef's Kitchen. What that's going to do is it's going to make my sim gain any kind of culinary or cooking skill at a higher rate than they would if I didn't have this selected. So that's the lot info panel. Now we're going to move over to the tools. And these middle buttons over here are the different tools that we have available to use. The first one is just simply a selection tool. It allows you to select the different objects in the game and, you know, move them wherever you want in the world. The other thing that the selection tool is good for, let's say I have this floor tile selected and I just want to get rid of that floor tile. I decide I'm not ready to do that. Then I can simply click on the selection tool and I don't have anything selected at all. The next tool is the eyedropper tool. And the eyedropper tool, what that does, it allows you to clone the different objects in the game. You can also clone the various floor tiles. You can clone the different wall tiles, and that way it makes it a little bit easier if you know that you really want to have this wall color somewhere else and you're not really sure where that is, then you can simply go ahead and clone it like that. The next tool is the design tool, and what that does is it allows you to change the different colors of whatever object it is. So I can go ahead and change this couch to be all the different colors that are available to us in this way. This does not work for everything though. This does not work for floor tiles. You cannot change the different floor tile color in this fashion. You can't change the wall tile in this fashion, even though we can see down here that there are different colors to choose. You can't change the different color by using the design tool. You do have to go ahead and select it with the eyedropper and then change the different color in this way. The next tool is the sledgehammer tool, and that simply is, what a sledgehammer does. It allows you to delete things. It allows you to delete stairs and fences and bits of wall and so on and so forth. The next tool is the undo. Let's say I totally messed up and I just want to redo it. I can go ahead and redo all the way back to the beginning. And then likewise, oh, I kind of liked it that way. You could go ahead and redo what you just undid. The next tool is going to be your save tool. And this will allow you to save not only the lot, the entire lot, but it allows you to save in room as well. And these are saved in your library, which is available over in the gallery. Now, as you can see, we have here the save room. There's no room currently selected. So if I wanted to just save like this bathroom here, I would have to select the room. As you can see, it is now highlighted likewise. And now it is available to go ahead and save. And when you click it, this little screen will open up, letting you enter in all the information. And then once you go ahead and save it, this will save it directly to your library alone, where only you will be able to see it and use it. Or you can save it over here to the gallery. And when you share it to the gallery, that allows all the other simmers out there to use your room or your lot or whatever. It's really one of the coolest things about this game is the way that you can share different lots, because things really open up to you that that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise if you're like a beginner builder and you're not really that good at it and you can't do exactly what you want. It's very possible that you will find what you want in the gallery. So the next tool is the move lot and house. Now there are two different, as it says, you can move just the house. And if you select to move just the house, then what it's going to have you do is to click on the structure you want to move. So like you can see, when I've clicked on this house, I would now be able to move it. I would now be able to rotate it, so on and so forth. If there was another structure on this lot, real quick, let's say I have like a little gazebo over here, then using the move house tool, if I just want to move the gazebo, then I would click just the gazebo. Now you can move the entire lot, and that's actually really useful a lot of times. Let's say you download a lot from the gallery and you don't like the position of the lot, then you can rotate it, you can pick it up, you can move it however you want. Let's say you don't, this lot is actually this house is actually pretty small for this big lot. So let's say I really want this house to be over here and I'm going to do a whole bunch of other stuff over to the left, then I would be able to do that without losing a bunch of stuff. So this next one is going to be the bulldoze. When you bulldoze, you cannot get it back. You can't bulldoze the lot and then hit undo. So when you bulldoze, you really want to make sure that that's what you want to do. It will come up. As you can see, it will ask you just to be sure that this is what you want to do, allow you to X out of it or go ahead and continue. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to bulldoze this lot completely. Boom, it's gone. But now what's not gone is the different terrain. If we had a raised terrain, let's say the terrain had been raised so that the house sat on top of a mountain, you would have the terrain raised. Any of the different terrain manipulation, the terrain paint that's on here will stay when you bulldoze the lot. And you simply, to get rid of that terrain, you just bulldoze the terrain accordingly. And then you can go ahead. This will allow you to put the terrain back. So that is kind of nice, that if you accidentally bulldoze terrain you didn't really want to, you can go ahead and get that back. But we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then this last tool over here will allow you to toggle the time of day, which is extremely useful if you are, it's nighttime and you want to build. You can't really see things very well at night, so you can go ahead and make it whatever time of day to have optimum light. Of course, afternoon being the most light you will get. And moving on, we have over here our actual game controls, and you just mouse over them to see what they do. This is going to bring you out to manage worlds. This is going to open up the gallery, and which also has your library. And we're going to go over in the next episode a more in-depth look of the gallery and library, so you don't have to worry about that at this time. This here will allow you to go up to the next floor, down to the next floor, but of course we don't have anything on the lot, so we can't do that. This of course will be the view for your walls up or down, so on and so forth, just like in the game. This is the camera control. You can actually switch the camera to use the controls how they worked in the Sims 3, but I don't really like that, so I always use Sim 4. You can go ahead and rotate either way from here. And then what's really cool, and this only works when you're in build mode. This right here is not available to you in game mode, but there are some instances in build mode where you're going to want to look at the lot like this, just so that you can make sure things are exactly where you want them. It gives kind of a more bird's eye view of it. And then now moving on, we are going to talk about the different actual ways of building. Or rather, the different buttons that are available here in build mode. So coming down here, as you can see, we have 4 different categories. This top one is the build category. The next one down will allow you to select objects by the room. So let's say I wanted to do something to select objects. If I'm not really familiar with the different things that are available in the game, which you're probably not if you're watching this right now, then this is the way you're probably going to want to search for things in the very beginning, because you don't really know what's available to you. But once you are more adept and you actually know, like in your head, what all the objects are, it's actually a lot easier to search for them by function. And that opens up this little drop-down menu, and you can select all the different items which refer to comfort. All the chairs, all the beds, things like that. You could do your plumbing, so on and so forth. And then the 4th category is the household inventory. You could put things in the household inventory at will. If I had, a sofa that I didn't really want to have at the moment, but I still wanted to keep it, I could go ahead and just drag it over here, click on it and drag it over and put it into the inventory. Real quick, let me show you. Let's say I didn't really want to have this couch on here right now, but I think I might want it later on for some reason. I could go ahead and select it and just place it in the inventory, or of course sell it as well. So now that I've placed it in the inventory, it is available here in the inventory. The other items which are kept in the household inventory are, let's say you completed a perfect day or a party or something of that nature where you receive a reward, which is actually very big. Or like if you are in the scientist career and as you get promoted, a lot of times you'll get rewards for being promoted. This is where you will find those rewards right here in our household inventory. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with all the build mode buttons. All right, so it can be pretty easy to get a little overwhelmed when you go to create your first build, but it's actually really simple to use the different tools. When you are over here in the build section of build mode, you have this cute little house here. And basically this house allows you to select the different things that you have available in your build mode. So starting at the very beginning, of course, the first thing you'd want to do is to raise your walls. And this part right here will give you your walls as well as your empty rooms. And it gives you several different ways of placing these rooms in your house. You can use the freehand drawing tool to create the different rooms like so, just like this. You can use the draw a square tool. That's what I like to call it anyways. You could do the drag and click method to create like weird shapes like so. And then you would just double click to finish up. This here is the basement tool. Now, the basement tool doesn't work how you would, of course, think. You're not going to go down to the basement and then use the basement tool. This actually allows you to draw your basement while you're on the floor above. So let's say I wanted my basement to go the whole size of the lot. Just like this. As you can see, we've got this green square highlighted to show us where our basement is. And as you can see, now it has been put down below. Why you would want it, it's actually, I remember when I first started to build, I couldn't understand why anybody would want to do it. The reason why you would want to use this tool is so that your stairs can be placed accordingly. So let's say I'm going to have a basement, and the stairs to the basement are going to be right here. And I really want my stairs for the basement to come here. So what I would do is I would go ahead and draw the basement like this. And then grab my stairs and then place them how I want them to be. Otherwise, if you don't do it like that, what's going to happen is you're going to have this big basement down here. And then when you go to place your stairs, how are you going to know where these stairs are from being placed? See, I placed these stairs and now they're not even inside of my actual house. So that basement drawing tool is actually really, really useful. Of course, you could draw it the same way with the drag and click method. The next way allows you to just grab a room of whatever size and to drop it. These here are all the different decks. These will be different decks that you can put on your house. As you can see, it's just basically a room that's outside that doesn't have any walls is what that is. Excuse me. And then we have our different decks with fences on them. And that'll just basically, you know, put your porch on and it'll already have a fence there. And then you can go back and change the style of fence that you want in a later time. Then this one down here, as you can see, we've got all of our room tools up here. And then down here, we've got an additional room tool. The reason this room tool is down here is because this is actually going to place your room on the diagonal. So instead of having a regularly shaped or regularly orientated room, it'll actually place your room on the diagonal instead. Now, once you've got your rooms placed or drawn as you want them, then it's really easy to edit them without deleting stuff. You can simply select it, and these little arrows will allow you to drag the room, to create it bigger, to make it smaller, so on and so forth. Then the other selection part of when you have a room selection, then you have this additional menu that has popped up. This will allow you to move it wherever you want. This will allow you to change the size of the walls. Say I want bigger walls or I want shorter walls. This will allow you to copy it. Let's say I wanted the same exact size structure over here, and I could place it right there. And then this here, of course, will rotate it in the different ways. So that is all the ways that you can place different walls of your structure. The next button down here is going to be for all your different half walls. And here you can see your different sizes of half walls. They work in the same way. You can simply freehand draw them on. You can create a square, or you can automatically replace walls with half walls. So that means, let's say I decided that I don't want this wall here, I want it to be a half wall. I simply just have to select the replace walls and it'll allow me to go ahead and do that very simply. And then the last button down here on the wall selection is going to be just the different trim that you would want on your half walls. You could just change it like that. It has different color swatches as well, so you can have it whatever color you would like. So yeah, so that is how the different ways you can place all your different rooms in your walls and so on and so forth. So we are going to, from there, move on to a completely clean and bulldozed lot. And we're just real quick going to build a little block house so that you can see how the other building tools work. And I'm going to go ahead and select that block. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go up to the second floor and place it right on top like that. So now I have a 2-story house. So now that I've got a 2-story house, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a deck on it. I'm going to place my deck here, and I'm just going to drag it out so it's a nice little deck like this, kind of big like that. So now that I have my very basic and simple outline, let's say I actually wanted to have some stairs going up to the deck. The only thing that I did not show you how to use in regards to the walls is this little button here. What this little arrow does here is this allows you to raise the foundation of your structure like so. This way you can have a raised structure without having to manipulate the terrain so that you have hills. So now that I have it up like that, we can go ahead and move on to the different building tools. So the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a roof on this. So we're going to select, of course, the roof over here on our little house. And this is all the different style of roofs that are available to us. We've got our gabled roofs, which is basically, you know, just your regular triangle roof like that. You have your gable. You have your hipped roof, which it has like the roofs on the side of the roof where the rain would run off on all sides. Then we've got our half gabled roof. We've got our different hexagons and octagons, things like that. If we were going to have like a tower where you would have like an octagon room, this makes it really easy to go ahead and put the roof on. Then here you have on the end these roofs that have this little arrow. And what that is that's if you had placed a portion of your house on the diagonal like this, you would, of course, want to have your roof diagonal, like so. Because, you know, if you try to put this one on there, well, that's just not right, is it? So, yeah, so that's how you use the roofing tools. Once you've got your roof on there, all you have to do is click on it and then to use these little arrows to drag them out. And just like with the room tool, you have this other little menu that pops up, allowing you to pick it up and move it wherever you want. You can rotate it any which way, and then you can also copy it as well, which makes it really useful if you have like different sections of roof, and it's going to be like let's say you have like a little section here you want to gable on, and then the same exact thing here. It makes it really simple, so you don't have to completely place another roof and worry about the size. The other things that are available to you when you click on these roofs, the options that are available is you can make the roof super, super tall like that. You can pull out the actual roofing like that to make the lip come out, or bring it back in all the way so that there's no lip. And then you have the last one are these little balls. And what these little balls do is it basically bows your roof in or out like so. So we are real quick going to go ahead and get rid of all that like so. Hey, that's the wrong thing. Good thing there's that undo button. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Let's get rid of this also. Get this out of the way. And we're just going to go ahead and place a very simple gabled roof on this house. Just like this. And that is so freaking tall, we're going to have to lower this down because it just doesn't look right, does it? Yeah, that's better. I like it like that. Okay. So now that we got our roof on, we can think about the different, how we want the roof to look. And that is by using the different wall patterns, or the different roof patterns, excuse me. And most of these roof patterns have, the different color swatches like so. If I want a green roof, I could do that. If I want it to be a skylight like that, or a completely open skylight like this one. That's how you change it. You can't do just a section of it like you would if you wanted like section of the wall this color and then this part a different color. It's going to change your entire roof. It's not going to change an additional roof. Let's say I had like a tower here that had this roof on it. It's not going to, just because I changed the color of this one, it's not going to change the color of that one. I can make it whatever color I want. So we're just real quick going to just put it at like, I think like this, just simple shingle black roof like that. So moving on from that, the other way we can change the look of the roof is by the trim. And you have your different different roof trims here with the different color swatches. Basically it's just like different sizes. So I kind of like most of the time to have like a large beveled trim, and we're just going to go with a simple white beveled trim like that. And as you can see, it really did make a difference on our roof. It looked kind of unfinished before, and now it looks totally finished. So moving on from that, down below our roof trim, we have our friezes. And basically what a frieze is it's just like a little added decoration that goes at the top of whatever floor. So now so these friezes, you cannot use a frieze on walls that are as short as they can be. As you can see, when you click on these walls, we have 3 different sizes: small, short, medium, and tall. You can't use a frieze on a short wall. You can only use it on a medium or tall wall. And then some of the friezes you can only use on the super tall wall. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to change it so that these walls are very tall. And now we have a very tall house indeed. And we're just going to go ahead and pick one of these friezes that we like. We're going to go ahead with this one. And of course, we've got the different color swatches available to us. We'll just go with a simple black there and place it on that. Just like that at the top. Now, because our second or first floor wall is extremely tall also, we can place that frieze down here as well, or we could choose a different frieze to place it on also. So now, as you probably saw as I placed this frieze on there, the frieze at first, because I dragged it over this, it tried to place the frieze over the deck as well, which is an option to you if you want to do that. Most of the time, the reason this is used is if you are going to have a roof that overhangs just the porch area. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And I'm just going to place like this simple, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this real quick. And I'm going to place, you see how this roof is? It has this flat edge. That's so that you can place it up against a wall that's connected to the house like so. So we're going to actually come down here like this. And we're going to place that right about here just to show you. And let's say we're going to have it kind of extend out like so here and like so there. Now I would be able to take my frieze. So we'll always let there it is. Like that. Then I can drag this out to the edge of that, and then it makes it like for a nice little decorated kind of lip like that. So, but we're going to go ahead and get rid of that part of it because I don't really want that on there like that. And then I'm also going to get rid of the second. You'll get out of here, you roof. Let me just go ahead and hammer that out there. So now we're going to go down here. There's this other exterior trim. And what that is this is the trim that can go between your, it's not an actual big thick frieze like this. It's just a little additional trim that can only be placed between the different floors. If you only have a one-story house, you're not going to have this option at all. But let's say my first floor here was actually the short wall. And we know that we can't place the frieze down here on this totally short wall, but we really want these walls downstairs to be short. We can go ahead and place this trim around it like this. And this trim will work in the same way. Like if I have a balcony or something sticking out, then this trim will also go around the balcony. The only place that this trim cannot go around the balcony is if we have a balcony with a rounded edge. The trim, when you try to place it, see how this part right here of the rounded section, it'll place along this straight edge and along this straight edge, but it will not place around this rounded edge. If you do want there to be some kind of decoration going around the entire edge, you will have to use a frieze for that. So moving on from there, let's go ahead and get rid of this little section of porch, and let's go ahead and move down to the different doors. And as you can see, we have 3 different sizes of doors that we can choose from. And obviously, if we have a short wall going on, we're not going to be able to place one of these big tall walls on a short wall. It just won't fit, darn it. So you do have to have the correct size wall for these taller doors. And it works, you know, just like any object in the game. You just place it wherever you want it, so on and so forth. You can change the color swatch like so, like everything in the rest of the game. Excuse me, and the same goes for the different windows. And these windows also are not all created equal. We have the different sizes like this available to us. And again, you have the different color swatches. You just drag them and place them wherever your little heart desires. We do. And moving on from that, we're going to go ahead and we are going to jump down over here to the different columns. And these columns work in the same exact way. You just can change whatever color swatch you want, and you can use the design tool if you place all your columns, you're like, oh no, I really wanted it to look like that. The design tool does work on these columns and on the doors and window as well. Does not work on the friezes though, does not work on the wall colors and the wall tiles. So let's go ahead and just place these random columns here. We're going to place one there. We're going to place one here. And let's come down to the actual floor we're working on so we can see it better. Now let's place one here and one here. Let's say we want another column just here and just here, all kind of like random, like this. So now that I have these columns placed, I can go over here to the spandrels. And what this spandrel is it's kind of like how the frieze worked before, how when we had the frieze come out along over the roof of the porch, these spandrels kind of work similarly, and they create an area between columns. They can also replace entire walls as well. So if I decide I don't want a wall and I really just want like a spandrel, I can just go ahead and replace it like so as well. And you can go ahead and change the color here. But again, this is one of those things you cannot use the design tool to change the color. So we're just going to get rid of that real quick. And then we're going to move on to the fences. And we have our fences right here. And the fences are done very similarly to the way you would draw walls. You can use the freehand drawing tool to draw your fences on like this, like that, like so. You could use the square drawing tool, which makes it really easy if you wanted your fence to surround your entire lot. It makes it really easy to do it that way. And then you also have the option to replace the fence. Let's say I wanted this fence to be this one instead. I could just use the fence replacer there. And likewise, I could use the fence replacer there to get rid of a wall. And I could also place my fence along my porch like this without having to draw it on there as well. And then, of course, the natural place to move on to that would be, of course, to the gate. And you can just grab your whatever gate you want and just place it wherever you want along your fence. It, of course, has the different swatches here as well. And moving on from there, we're going to come down to the stairs. And you have, of course, many different stairs available to you. This is another one of those objects that you can't use the design tool to change the color. You do have to come down here to the different color swatches. So when you go to grab your stairs, it's automatically going to come out in this direction here like this. All you have to do, obviously, if we want stairs coming out from this way, we're not going to place it there like that. We are going to have to make the orientation change. And all you have to do is to, while you have your stairs selected, to hold down your mouse button and drag it out like that. And you could just move it any which way you want, like so. And then when you are ready to place your stairs, you're going to either, if I wanted to place my stairs in the house, if I'm on the interior, I'm going to place my stairs going up. You just place it wherever you want. Let's say I wanted to place some stairs going up to the porch. Obviously, my Sim's not going to be able to get up there. You can place them right here like this, and you'll have a little lip of the stair, and then you could take this gate and put this gate right here if you wanted, or have no fence there at all to get in. Or you could go ahead and move your stair all the way in like so. And then it'll take away that section of the fence. And as you drag them out using the arrows, that section of the fence will go away. And then, of course, this other little menu has popped up. It works just like how it worked for the roofs and whatnot. You can use this to move it. You could use this to copy it. You can rotate it, so on and so forth. Let's see, and the natural place to move on to that would probably be down here to the foundations. And before we had the terrain update, we used to have a little foundation slider, which would basically do what this does, which is raise and lower the foundation of the house. But since the terrain tools have been updated, we don't have that slider here. And basically all this menu does is it changes the color of your foundation to be whatever you choose it. And most of them have the different little color swatches. Not all of them do, but most of them do. So moving on from that, the next place we're going to move to are two of these different floor patterns. And you place floor patterns just by clicking on whichever one you want. You have the different color swatches available to you. They are organized by type. We have our wood floors, we have our carpets, our tile, so on and so forth. The mouse over will show you all of that. And of course, this one down here will show you a list of all of them, not organized in any which way. So in order to place it, you just basically click on the one you want, and you can place one at a time like this. You can, let's grab one that we can see a little better. One at a time like this. You can click and drag, or you can place your tile and then hit shift on your keyboard, and it places that color floor tile for the entire room. It will not, as you can see, you can't see because there's no lights on in here, but the floor tile has not been changed inside the house. As you can see, it's a little different there now. So it'll only, when you hit that shift, it'll only change the floor in that particular room. And the wall tiles work in the same exact way. They're organized very similarly, all the different paint, wallpaper, tile, so on and so forth, and you're just going to place it in the same exact way. You can do one at a time. You can drag it. I could put this purple one right next to it here, or of course I could just go ahead and hit shift on my keyboard, and it'll place the wall tile for that entire room. Or like this, I think we may have drawn this funny because it didn't go around to the rest of the edge. Oh, that's because we have this porch here. So actually, this outside wall is considered a room of this porch. Even though we don't have walls, it's just a porch. This is in the game read as a room. So that's why I only changed the color of the wall here on the porch, and it did not do it on the side. But if we wanted to do it, let's say we wanted the rest of the house to be like this, and we hit the shift, and this will continue along the entire outside of the house. If we had drawn another room right over here, it'll only change the color of this one here, and then I could put another one here, or I could do the same one there as well. Let's see, and the next thing moving on from that we'll talk about is the different roofs and wall sculptures. All of these roof sculptures and these wall sculptures alike, they're basically just different decorations that you can put on your structure like this. I can have vines going up like this. I could put a little flower box. There's a window there. I could put a flower box there. The roof sculptures will be where I'll find my different chimneys and things that I would want to attach on my roof, but I don't have to put them on a roof. I could put them right here if I wanted to put them right here as well. They're basically just objects like in that you would select. So also additionally to that, the other objects that you can select are the different plants, and it works, you know, in the same way that any object that you would select, like the objects by function, or refrigerator, or a couch, or whatnot. You would just choose the one you want and place them. The way that you can change the way it's placed, let's find one that's a little different. Let's take this one. And let's say I didn't want it to be faced in this direction. I wanted it to be like this. In order to get it to rotate, all I'm doing is I'm hitting the right hand mouse button to get it to change the orientation of it. And that's for all of these, the different plants and whatnot. The trees you can't change. It doesn't have different color swatches for the trees. But on most of the flowers, there are different color options that you can choose. Not all of them, but some of them. And then you can, for the plants, actually use the design tool to change the color of the plants as well, and the rocks too. So the next part that we're going to talk about are the pools. And the pools are done in almost the exact same way that you would draw on the different walls. You can either use the square drawing tool, you could use the click and drag, you could use the click and drag method. Let's say we wanted to do that. Come over here like this and have another section of it, so on and so forth. You've got your different shapes here you could just place on there, so on and so forth. Underneath that, you have your pool trim, and it's basically just like the freezes work. It just gives a little added decoration to the trim of your pool. And as you can see, just because I did one section of trim that color, I could go ahead and do this section this color if I wanted. So it doesn't apply to, it only applies to the actual one square you have selected. Below that, we have our different colors of the waters. Works in the same way that the foundation colors. You just click the one you want and drag it over there. And then we have our different pool objects. We have our little ladders and our little algae and floating things, and our little, this will give you bubbles coming up, but it's not big enough, so I would have to actually change the size by simply dragging out the arrows like so, like this. I could raise it up here like this to be above ground as well if I wanted. And I could just go ahead and put the little steam grate or bubble grate down there as well. We've got these little decorations we can put in the bottom of the pool also, which makes it a little added cool thing on there. And then we have our fountains, and the fountains are done in the same way that the pool is done. You can draw your square, and it'll have a fountain that is actually, it's got like this little lip here, like that. And let's say I want to raise it up, the lip will be like that. And then I can put my trim on there, and it changes the trim. If you see, let me find one that's different. There we go, like that. So I can put a little trim like that. Then down here we have our different water emitters, and that basically is just different shapes of the water coming out. And then with this, you also have the different color options as well. And we could toggle over to nighttime, and it looks all nice and blue, or it can look all nice and red as well, and it makes it really pretty and beautiful. And then below that, we just have our different objects. You could put like a fountain inside of a fountain. Let's see, let's take this one and put this one in here like that. So on and so forth. It just works the same way. Just grab, blip, click, grab, drag, and drop. So on and so forth. Then the last part is our terrain tools. Well, I guess it's not technically the last part, but the last part of the actual building itself, we have our terrain tools. And when you click on the terrain, the first part that's going to come up is our paint tools. And our paint tools are organized by grass and flowers, stone and pavement, and then of course just dirt and sand. And basically what that does is it kind of gives you like, it's like a little spray paint is really what it is. You can pick the different size you want. You could do circle brush or square brush as well. And you would just basically pick the one you want and then click, and then just basically you're painting it on as if you're doing like a little spray paint tool in the paint editor. Additionally to this, you have the softness that you can adjust. And basically what that is, if you look at the terrain paint tool here at the circle, all it does is it just changes the speed at which you're applying the paint. So if I have the softness adjusted all the way, as you can see now it's just a solid circle, and when I click it, it's going to immediately put down that circle wherever I click. Now let's say I adjust the softness to be the middle how it was before. Now what's going to happen is the paint is going to be applied at a slower rate, starting from that inside circle and then moving out. So I'm going to click, and it's not going to immediately put it out. It's going to put it out at a slower rate. Here, that one's easier, you can see it. You see how it's moved a lot slower, and I have to keep holding it on to make it all the way out. So this is actually really useful if you're not really sure what you're doing. You probably want to have your softness adjusted all the way down so that it doesn't come on so fast and you can kind of manipulate what you're going. The next tool underneath this paint tool is going to be the eraser. That's basically just what it says it does. It just erases the different terrain. So we're just going to use that and just kind of get rid of this here. Then underneath this, so we've done our terrain paint. The tool that's underneath the paint is going to be your terrain manipulation. The terrain manipulation is probably the most difficult thing in build mode at this time. What this allows you to do, it allows you to manipulate how high or how low the terrain is. And just as the mouse over say, it's going to do exactly what it says. This one is going to raise your terrain like so. This one is going to lower your terrain like so. This one is going to smooth out your terrain like so. This one here is going to flatten your terrain. And as you can see, wherever the terrain is flat, you have your grid. If it's not flat, there's no grid. So when you flatten it, we've gotten rid of all that we just did. This here, this flatten to height tool, is actually an extremely useful tool. As the tools are right now, you can change the height by using this little slider. And as you see where I move this slider, the little square that's going up or down, that's what that does. So let's say I wanted the terrain over to here to be this tall, but I also want the terrain over here to be that tall as well, because I want to make a bridge that goes from here to that. It's really useful if you are going to have different sections of terrain that you need to have the same exact height for, like a bridge or something of that nature. And then this tool here, of course, flattens the terrain of the entire lot completely. Excuse me. And just like we had with the terrain paint options, these sliders here will adjust the softness and the speed of which the terrain is raised or lowered. So if I have the speed all the way up, it's going to do it super quick. If I have it all the way down, it's going to allow you to raise the terrain much slower, and that way you can be more sure of the height that you have if you're not real familiar with using them as well. Now, because the terrain tool manipulation tools are a little bit confusing to use, especially for a beginner builder, I'm not going to talk any more about them right now, but look for a later episode of just terrain manipulating, and I'm going to show you how to use the tools much simpler than what you think it is. And with those things said, we can kind of move on to the next section, and that's just basically the objects. Now, the first way that you can like style your rooms with object is the game does give you this built-in option of different rooms that you can purchase, and when you mouse over them, it tells you how much that entire room is. And you can it's just organized by room here. You have your study rooms and dining rooms, whatnot, and you can just pick one. Let's pick this one down here, and let's buy this purple room. We could just buy the room, drag it where we want in the house, just like so. It automatically places it, and you have everything that was in that room already. And then you can go ahead and just drag it out to be whatever size you want. You can, if you want it to be an oddly shaped room, you could go ahead and delete some of these walls here, and then just draw a wall that comes out a little further in that section, and use the eyedropper to have the same color walls on the inside. And then down below we have, like I had already said, these are objects that you could buy by room, and are objects that you could buy by function. And when you place them, it's just like I was telling you about how with the trees and the different plants, when you select one, you just put it where you want on the lot, and then you just use the right hand mouse button to rotate it in any fashion that you want. And that, my friends, is absolutely it for the bare basics of building. I hope that wasn't too confusing. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down into the comments below. Additionally, I would also love to hear what you have to say. I'm always open to suggestions and whatnot. So if you want to leave a comment down below, that would be awesome. It would be more awesome if you hit the subscribe button, if you liked the video, if you liked it. Check out the website, see some of the other cool stuff we got going on out there. And until next time, guys, happy simming, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye!